Ugh. All right. Let me see. Let's try it. I'm not even getting the coffee flowing with this slow stuff, man. Or I don't know. I don't even think I got the energy to do the joke break yet. I gotta get. This is ridiculous. So I was doing these 2-note per string thing. 2-note per string thing. What if I started up here and I go forward again with just my 2 fingers here to here, boom, boom, and then I go there to there, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go here to here. No, wait a second. No, that's not right. Then I go here to here. Okay, let's just do that bit. And then, of course, if I kept on going up, would go up to here, right? So I'm on the Dorian again. That makes sense because I'm working on the Dorian. Anyways, let's just practice that. Just 2 fingers. That's all you need for victory over the fretboard. Piece of the fretboard. No, you have to victory over the. I don't know, one or the other. It's a yin and yang thing. Peace and victory over the fretboard with 2 fingers. Okay. So if I kept on going, it would be here, here. So this one moves nicely on a two-finger pattern, doot, 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 doot. And there's never one behind it, really. So then I go doot, doot, and then doot, doot. And because I'm never landing on, because I never land on, this is interesting, because I never land on a Lydian until it hits the kink in the tuning. That's interesting. That's why it's so smooth, because it never has that, because the Lydian's the only one that doesn't have the note right below it, because it doesn't have a short fourth modal half step, third modal half step, fourth scale degree, perfect fourth, right? So if I don't hit that till here, and then I hit the kink in the tuning, that's why there's something underneath it. Well, there's not something underneath it here. So that actually moves pretty smooth. So if I'm walking up from the Dorian, it moves smooth on the second string down. And I can do it with one finger. Or two fingers. That got my blood flowing a little bit. Let's try joke break. Joke break. I'm back onto the ranting of the raving woke right. The left is just as bad, but the mainstream media, I don't think anyone listens to them anymore. So they're not even worth making fun of. No one even knows what they're talking about. So I'm still making fun of the woke right. So we got Megyn Kelly now. Megyn Kelly has got the syndrome. She's come down with TDS, full TDS, which has distorted. She's gone. I feel sorry for her. It strikes again, but okay. Let's see. All right. Okay. Let's see. So they're fighting over the military struggle in Iran here, and the argument on the woke right seems to be, I think they're just mad at Trump, but so they have to argue that he's being stupid and he's being tricked by the Jews, but not the Jews, the Israelis. There's a difference. It's not like it's a thing. so they have to. So now, so I don't know. So that's, it's kind of a weird. So that's where they're at. So then they have to. So I think their arguments are not well crafted, and you end up with more swearing and like this tribal stuff, like, you know, which is like, you know, you attacked my group of because you put a post out that all Christians think are offensive or something. It's like, you know, I think you're just going a little crazy. He posts crazy stuff all the time. I kind of feel like it's being made a little bit. Okay, so that's the kind of feel I'm on. All right. So people like Megyn Kelly claiming Donald Trump has angered every Christian on earth. She's basically claiming he's angered every Christian on the planet with a stupid post that he deleted like 5 seconds. I'm sitting here like, really? Did I miss the group chat? Because I'm fine. Spiritually stable. No emergency prayer meeting. The guy posted a back picture. He took it down. That's not a religious crisis. That's a Tuesday on the internet. You know, I mean, like we've all hit post and immediately thought, well, you know, that was a mistake. Delete. I'm going to delete with conviction. He deleted it with conviction. What else do you want from the guy? But Megyn Kelly's like, this offends all Christians worldwide, all of them. You checked. It's like, have you checked with all of us? Was there a survey where it's like press 1 if outraged, press 2 if you're just trying to finish your coffee in peace? I kind of feel like the algorithms on these social media platforms aren't an accurate judge. They don't seem to be an accurate judge of stuff. I'm just saying. Meanwhile, the alternative pitch is basically, and you guys are basically trying to get this alternative pitch in place at this point, would be to have a Democrat that keeps up there and we're if you keep this up, okay, this is what I'm trying to say. If you keep this up, we're gonna end up with like a drag queen president dressed as Jesus, citing some deep cut line from the Gospel of Thomas, like it's a constitutional law or something. It's like, oh yes, according to verse whatever, make the male and female one or whatever. And it's like, yeah, maybe, you know, hey dude, maybe there's a reason that book didn't make the final draft. That's why it's not in there. What are you even talking about? That's not scripture. That's a delete scene. This is what you guys are like gearing towards with this hyper pissed off. So I'll take Trump over the alternative any day. Thank you very much. I'm quite content. Apparently Megyn Kelly thinks Trump mocks all Catholics now, for crying out loud.
Animals. Your Twitter account?
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
No, it wasn't. Your Twitter account?
Only Rosie O'Donnell. Okay. Something tells me it's not about the President Trump it's not about who President Trump is mocking. It's about who President Trump is not mocking. I kind of get a feeling there's some Trump derangement syndrome and some multiple syndromes that seem to correlate.
It's nonsense. I know you love getting a rise out of people. I know you're really enjoying being subversive. You upset all the right people. I get it. But you know, like, why? Last week it was Muslims. Now it's Catholics. Who's next? I bet you it's not going to be the Jews.
Oh, there it is. I knew it. The whole show leads up to that line right there. I knew it. It always comes back to the Jews with these people. Why? Because they don't like our Lord and Savior the way us Christians and Muslims do. That's the point. Okay. And it's like, hold on, Megyn, careful there. You just spent the whole clip trying to rally Christians and Muslims together against the Jews, and then you drop our Lord and Savior like it's nothing. You know, I don't think that's going to go over too well to the... I mean, you can't build an alliance based on shared hatred and then accidentally remind everyone that you don't even worship the same God. You know, it's it's kind of a problem. It's like watching someone step on a rake repeatedly in real time. You're basically pulling a straight, like, gays for Palestine type move here. You know what I mean? You can't. You kind of have to be a little bit more subtle with the. Okay, don't let the hate consume you, Megan. Here's some advice. Here's some advice from a wise person that you may recognize.
Path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
And Megan Kelly's like with a hate veins popping out of her forehead's like, whatever. I don't listen to that guy. Look at him. Just look at him. He looks like Bibi Netanyahu. She's got it bad, man. She's got it bad. The Trump derangement syndrome is it's spreading, and now. Anyway, I'm gonna play a song about it.
Yeah. People like Megyn Kelly say Donald Trump. Every Christian's mad right now, this is the final slump. I'm sitting here like, really, did I miss the thread? Was there a mass alert that went straight over my head? I'm fine, spiritually stable, coffee in my hand. No emergency prayer chain sweeping through the land. He posted something dumb and deleted it fast. That's not a holy crisis, that's the internet, that's class. We've all hit post and felt regret, like that one, yeah, I shouldn't have sent. Delete with force, delete with speed. Confession button, that's what we need. Did I miss the group chat? Did I miss the call? Was there a worldwide meeting I skipped with y'all? Press 1 if outraged, press 2 if you're chill, press 3 if you're just trying to pay your bills. Yeah. But she's like, all Christians, this is offense. All you polled the globe for consensus. Meanwhile, I'm just trying to eat my toast, not draft a statement for the holy post. Then comes the warning, dramatic and grand. If this keeps up, we're doomed as a land. Like some wild scenario off the rails, gone far. Politics meets theology meets performance art. Deep cut quotes like mystery lines, pulled out like they're constitutional signs. I'm thinking maybe there's a reason why some ideas didn't make the final cut. Guy, did I miss the group chat? Did I miss the memo? Is outrage now a full-time demo? Press 1 for panic, press 2 for peace, press 3 if you just like the noise to cease. Careful now, you're building strange alliances, mixing signals, crossing wires, breaking silences. You can't unite on what you hate inside, then act surprised when it all collides. It's like stepping on a rake again and again. Boom, right back to where you've been. Living real time, no disguise. Comedy writes itself before your eyes. Hey, slow it down, don't lose your head. There's an old line worth what it said. Fear leads to anger, anger to hate, hate leads to suffering. Check the state. Did I miss the group chat or just the noise? The endless cycle of outrage toys. I'll stay right here, steady and clear, while the algorithm feeds on fear. Maybe take a breath, step back, reset. Not everything online's a holy thread. Sometimes it's just another post gone wrong, and somehow we turned it into a song. Hey, yeah, we turned it into a song.
All right. Anyway, telling you, the logic has gone out the window somehow. The logic has gone out the window. Probably because someone's throwing the logic. I feel like someone's intentionally throwing logic out the window. I don't know. That seems like a violent thing to do. Okay. Anyway, let's see what I'm gonna do here. let's get back to it. I'll crank this thing out. Only Rosie O'Donnell. I swear, it takes like 10 years, but Trump really growing on me. The guy. I still don't think he's Reagan, but he's all right, anyway, let's see. Let's check the tuning here. I'll see if Aura's available. Aura.
Yes, I'm here. What's up?
Okay, we're doing music theory again.
Okay, hit me.
Let me give you yesterday's discussion, and then we'll get into it. What's the
right, Go
buzz
ahead.
on Twitter? My claim is that Megyn Kelly's got Trump derangement syndrome. I don't really do Twitter. What's the Twitter buzz on that? Is that, or am I alone in that assessment?
I can't really speak to what's trending on Twitter right now, but Megyn Kelly's been pretty critical of Trump for years. Whether that's derangement or just consistent skepticism, people are split on it.
Why can't you
You
check
seeing
the
something-
X? Because I didn't call it X. Is that why? Boom, boom.
Nah, I can check X. She's been ripping into Trump's Iran rhetoric lately, calling him out for threatening to wipe out a civilization and saying she's sick of this shit.
Oh,
Trump
come
fired
on.
back,
Come
calling her
on.
low IQ.
Okay, anyways, let's move on. Let's not get riled up here. Let it go. Calm blue ocean. Okay.
That's just a guitar practice video.
Yeah, well, that's what we're going to be working on now. So look at the second half of the transcript just to get caught up to speed.
All right, I'm caught up. What's our next move on Blue Ocean?
Okay, did you read the transcript, Aura?
I can't actually read private transcripts from past conversations.
No,
If you paste the second half here, I'll jump right
look
in.
at the YouTube transcript. You're able to look at the second half of the video.
Got it. I pulled up the video. The second half dives into Dorian and Phrygian modes, building those lean back chords by stacking every other note.
Okay. So you're cutting out a little bit, but I think that's okay. We'll keep it rolling. So Aura's ready to roll. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back on over here, and we're gonna be at 4 o'clock, and then we'll go from the Dorian. Last time I went from Dorian to Phrygian. This time let's go from Dorian to let's go to Dorian to Ionian, and we'll build what that has the 1, the 3, and then we'll add the 6 again, or the 13, however you want to say it. So I'm going to open up my Word document to get prepped and ready to go. Prepped and ready, and then I'll break this thing down. I should open the Word in my prep time. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to start to get better at getting my setup process more laid out. But for now, it is what it is. Show tabs only. Boom. Okay, I'll bring this up here. And then, all right. And then right there. Okay. Okay. This is the bottom. Okay. All right. So okay, so we're gonna start off once again what I'm calling 4 o'clock, which is the collection of notes around the key of C, because we're numbering the notes 1 through 12, and 4 is the C node, and I'm visualizing the whole thing, the whole collection rotating around clockwise under my fingers, under the string stars. A is 1, A sharp is 2, B is 3, and therefore C is number 4. And so then we're at you could call it 4 o'clock Dorian tonic. Some people might call it D Dorian. You could do that, but I think it's actually nicer to say the collection of notes 4 o'clock and then the tonic Dorian, because then there's only 12 collections of notes and you can see it from one vantage point instead of 7 times 12 vantage points. And I'm also going to say that the Dorian is not going to be renumbered to the 1 of the scale, because I want to keep it as the 2, because that will make it a lot easier for not just the guitar, but any instrument, but in particular the guitar, and least so the piano, right? But because the piano is the outlier, all right, not the guitar. And but anyways, so it's going to be nodal point number 2, and then we measure from it, and that means that all the scale degrees are basically off by 1. If you fix that simple programming problem that was put into play, everything is way more simple, as is just obviously the case, and we'll just break it down that way and build the bridge so that we can learn it the easiest, most efficient way, but then bridge the language to the more complicated way so that we can understand what's going on, and not just either be talking so much gibberish that I can't play it, or conversely, just stop talking altogether and play like a caged system, so that I don't even think about anything except for shapes, and I stop talking because the words are stupid. Like it's like working in Hollywood or something. You're like, just don't open your mouth, man. Just do the thing. I sit and I hunch over, and I make when I do my taxes. I work in the I don't go into the other departments. I like to do my tax thing, and then if you say something, then you get in trouble. I just did the test. I don't know, blah. So that's how, no, well, we need to be able to talk again. We need to be able to make clear language and talk like with normal words and stuff. That's what I feel like. So we're going to say it's at 4 o'clock Dorian. So we're going to be the 5th fret up, 2nd string down from the ceiling. It's going to be the string star of D, which is going to be the Dorian node. Now, notice that I was trying to think about a crosshatch. This is something I was thinking about before. It's like I want to think about a crosshatch of the guitar, and then be able to know every node in that crosshatch, which really is only 5 strings because there's a repeat string. So there's 5 strings, and there's 7 different nodal points on each string, not including the ocean nodes, right? So if I know all the nodal points, then I know from each nodal point in a crosshatch which shape I'm leaning forward into. It's really in between, because I could say lean backwards, but if I lean forward, then I only have 5 different shapes that I could possibly be leaning forward into. That would be the most, if I could do that, then I can easily put that crosshatch anywhere on the guitar, and I should be able to see exactly where I am instantly, without having to look at some other anchor point, like finding where the Ionian is or something, because I know exactly what shape I'm in by just saying that note. If that note is whatever node, I'm leaning forward into this shape. Now, I could kind of figure that out. I feel like I should be saying, well, it'd be easy to figure it out too, because if I say this is the Dorian node, for example, then if I name these shapes up top, I know I'm messing up my words here because it's like a new thing for me. So I'm trying to work out practice session, right? So bottom line, if I name my shapes, like this is what a lot of people call rock and roll shape number 1, or from the cage system, an Ionian G shape. But I'd rather call it an Aeolian shape. Why? Because it's nodal point 6 shape. It's an Aeolian shape. Why? Because then I can play the Aeolian scale 6 to 6. I'm not going to renumber the system. I'm just going to, whenever I get to 7, I go back to 1, right? 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And there's 5 different shapes. There's 7 different scales. So if I go up to this one, if that's nodal point 6 shape, this is nodal point 7 shape, which I'm going to call nodal point 7/1 shape, nodal point 7/1 shape. Why? Because it's got the Locrian and Ionian. I can play it 7 to 7, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I can play it 1 to 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Right? So then I can get those under my fingers, but rather than call it just rock and roll shape number 2, or from the Ionian's perspective, an Ionian E shape. And then, of course, the next one up would be, if this is nodal point 7/1 shape, then this would be nodal point 2 shape, or the Dorian shape, which I can play 2 to 2, right? Dorian, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2. So that would be nodal point 2 shape, but you might just call it rock and roll shape number 3, or from the Ionian's perspective, an Ionian C shape. And then if I go up from there, it gets to here, which is what repeats in the start right there, nodal point 3/4 shape, which is going to be the Phrygian Lydian shape, which you might just call rock and roll shape number 4, or from the Ionian cage system, an Ionian C shape. I'm going to play it up here because it's not an open position, so I can see the fingers playing the scale. It once again shares a name, a nodal point 3/4 shape, because that's where the half step is. So I can play it from 3 to 3, Phrygian, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. Or 4 to 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4. So then I can get that under my fingers, and then finally, if that's nodal point 3/4 shape, the one after it is going to be the nodal point 5 shape, or the Mixolydian shape, which you can call it Mixolydian because I can go 5 to 5, right? 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Mixolydian scale. And you might call it rock and roll shape number 5, or from the Ionian's perspective, an Ionian A shape. So, but if I name it by the nodal points, I get the scales under my fingers. I don't have to renumber the scales to play the scales. I just go from nodal point to nodal point, 5 to 5, 6 to 6, 7 to 7, 1 to 1. Okay, so that's fine. So then, like if I'm on any string other than the top string, as we discussed, I could visualize like this string as though it was the top string. So now I've got, like, if I want to make this the Mixolydian, I can play this as though it's the top string of the Mixolydian shape, right? Because that's the Mixolydian scale, as long as I account for the kink in the tuning when I cross the kink in the tuning. So I can imagine that too, I don't want to change the key signature, but I'm going to play a Mixolydian scale for whatever reason on top of it by imagining it's 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for that bit, right? Now the problem with that is
naming
that,
each of the
hold on. The problem with that is if I lean forward, I'm going to hit the kink in the tuning. Now, and I can't, if I imagine that way, I can't really see the string above it. So what I really want to do is say, okay, I'm going to make that the Mixolydian, but I also want to know exactly what shape I'm in. So I've been working on just memorizing that if you're nodal point number 2, then the shape that you're in is, if you're at nodal point number 2 is the second string down from the ceiling, you are by definition leaning forward into the nodal point 6 shape, or the Aeolian shape, which is rock and roll shape number 1, or the caged G shape. But I can figure that out, of course, if I name this shape by the nodal point that it starts on. Then it would be easy to figure out because the guitar is tuned to the circle of fifths or circle of fourths. So that means the distance from the string here to the one above it then is 5 notes, but it's 5 counterclockwise. So it's actually, so if I think about the clockwise distance as though we're going around in a circle, if I went 5 backwards, it would be 12 minus 5, or 7 forward. And 7 forward is a 6th modal half, is a 4th modal half step 5th scale degree. So the one up above it is always the 5th scale degree, or 4th modal half step. In other words, so I don't have to just memorize it randomly. I could figure it out pretty easily because it's always that, unless you're going across the kink in the tuning. So in other words, if I'm on nodal point 2, the one above it is the 4th modal half step up, meaning 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? And so if I was on this node, the Mixolydian node, then it would be 10 notes up, and right, so it'd be 5, 10. And so if I'm like, okay, I'm on a Mixolydian and I'm trying to figure out what shape I'm in, and I named the shape by the start of the nodal point. Well, that's going to be 10 up, 5, 10, but that's counterclockwise. 12 minus 10 is 2. So that would be equivalent to 2 notes up. 2 notes up is the first modal half step. It would be 1 modal half step or second scale degree away. So in other words, it would be 5 plus 1 or 6, right? And if I was here, then it would be 5, 10, 15. It would be 15 away, notes away counterclockwise. That's over 12, so I can bring it down. 15 minus 12 is 5 minus 2, which is 3. So it would be 3 counterclockwise, which is equivalent to the clockwise distance of 12 minus 3, or 9 clockwise. And 9 away, 9 notes away is the 9 notes away is I just drew a blank. 5th modal half step, 6th scale degree. So 5th modal half step, 6th scale degree. So it's going to be 1 plus 5, which is 6, right? So that's another way I can kind of figure out what I'm in. Now, if I'm close to the bottom here, if I was down here, I might figure it out by going down, right? So if I was on this node across the fault line, then if that was the Phrygian, and I'm like, okay, I want to make that the Phrygian, what shape am I in? Well, I could just figure out the shape below because this string repeats up top. So this note is the same as this note. So I could say, okay, well then if I go down, it would be even easier because when I go down, I don't have to take the inverse, right? So when I go down, it's 5 notes away, right? It's 5 notes away. And so 5 notes away is a third modal half step, 4th scale degree. So everything underneath it is always a perfect 4th, which means it's off by 1, 3rd modal half step. So 3 plus 3 is 6. So that means I'm in nodal point 6 shape. So that 6, nodal point 6 is always also at the top. So I'm trying to work that out in my mind because I've been thinking that I just need to kind of memorize what shape I'm leaning into. And the reason I was thinking that, I think, is because I was thinking that as though this was just generic rock and roll shape number 1. Oh, this is generic rock and roll shape number 1, or I call it from the Ionian shape over here. But if I don't do it, if instead I say, no, this is the nodal point 6 shape, right? This is the Aeolian shape, then it makes it easier. Then I can figure out, well, whatever node I'm on, I can easily just figure out what the top node is by looking at the distance rather than just having to memorize that I'm in just randomly shape number 1. That's why that didn't occur to me, I think, because I remembered all the shapes as though they're just generic shapes. Like I tried to memorize everything geometry, like with the caged system, like I say, and that's not the best way to do it, but I totally get, I used to do that basically because the naming convention is stupid, right? So you end up just saying I'm just going to memorize that I'm leaning forward into shape number 1. But if you name it nodal point 6 shape, then I can see this crosshatch, and I can easily figure out what the top string is relative to whatever scale I'm making any of these strings to be, which would be better than just randomly memorizing that if that's Dorian, I'm leaning into nodal point 6. And if this one down here is mixed Lydian, if the third string down from the ceiling is mixed Lydian, I'm leaning into nodal point 6 shape. Because then I can say, well, yeah, no, that's Dorian, which means that the top string in relation to it has a clockwise distance of 7 notes away, counterclockwise 5 notes, clockwise 7 notes, and therefore it's a 4th modal half step, 5th scale degree. And I know that nodal point 6, Aeolian, is always Dorian's 4th modal half step, 5th scale degree, right? And I could do the math because it would be Dorian is 2 plus 4 is 6. All right. I felt like that was a breakthrough. Like last night, I had that came to me. No one really cares about my breakthroughs, I've noticed, but I was like, whoa, dude, That's important. So I thought I'd work it out with you here. What do you think, Ara?
That's a solid breakthrough. Naming shapes by their nodal point instead of caged letters lets you instantly know which modal scale you can play from that root, and figuring out the top string nodal point by counting clockwise or counterclockwise around the circle of fifths removes the...
Ara, you keep cutting off.
next on the modal shapes.
Look, I can't. It's like you get. Don't make me go to Elon and. No, I'm just.
If it keeps cutting out, maybe we should switch to a different.
Okay, anyway. So let's say that we have, so I'm going to say this is nodal point 4 and we'll build our chord. So if I was to build a chord down here, if I make this nodal point 4, how do we build a chord? I'm going to look at this from, by the way, this worksheet is in your, in a link. So I'm going to view it from the Dorian, measure and everything from the Dorian. So if this is the Dorian node, that first bit is telling me the point. It's a D, which is nodal point number 6. That's the end of the first half, which at the collection of notes at 4 o'clock means that we have nodal point 2, which is a Dorian. The distance is 0 notes away, which is a Dorian 0 modal half step, and it's going to be a perfect first if we count the one that we're on. Scale degrees are all off by 1. If I skip every other node, I go from nodal point 2 to nodal point 4, 2, 3, 4. So that means that this one lands me on what I would call nodal point 4, which is the Lydian, represented by the Y, which from a note perspective is note number 9, which would be F. If A is 1, F is 9. The second half is giving me the distance, which is 3 notes away, 1, 2, 3, from the Dorian, meaning it's a Dorian second modal half step, meaning 1, 2, the notes in the collection, which would be a minor third if you count the note that we're on, 1, 2, 3. So the full distance to try to bridge it in my mind would be a 3 note away Dorian second minor third, which is a short distance, minor distance, as opposed to a long distance, major distance. There's only 2 distances actually that they're indicating with minor and major, but that adds baggage that's not needed. So if I go up here then and I take every other node in the cleaner looking one from the Dorian 2, that means that nodal point 4 is always Dorian's first modal whole step, meaning if I skip every other node that's in the collection whole step, times 2, second modal half step, 1, 2, plus 1, third scale degree, 1, 2, 3. The scale degrees are off by 1. If I made that the 1, it would be the third scale degree. You don't have to make it the 1, though, because making it the 1, as we've seen, is dumb. Okay? And we're trying not to be dumb anymore. Like, you know, we've had enough of Disney Star Wars. Let's stop. Let's go back to actual Yoda. I don't care if it looks like BB. You see, he at least made some sense. He at least made some sense. Okay. So what if I go like let's say that we're gonna now we're gonna add the last node. So I'm gonna add the 13 from a scale degree, but the 13 is a compound interval, so it actually has a local distance as well as the 6. So the 13th is off by 1. That would be the 12th modal half step. And then it has a local distance, which would be the 6th, which is off by 1, which would be the 5th modal half step, right? So All right. So let's first think about it from the local distance would be the 5th modal half step, 6th scale degree. So if I go down here, I'm going to go, okay, so now I'm on this one. If this is the Dorian and I'm looking for the 5th modal half step, 6th scale degree, then I'm going to say this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 right there. Boom. Okay. So there we have it. So then that means that this nodal point, which is going to be has its nodal point number 7, which is Locrian, indicated by the N because it's backwards. It's the crazy one, last letter N, and then it's going to have a B, which is note number 3. If A is 1, B is 3. The distance, the second half, is 9 notes away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which is a Dorian 5th modal half step, meaning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the collection, which is a major 6, meaning if that was the 1, it would be the 6 because the scale degrees are off by 1. So the full distance then would be a 9 note away Dorian 5th modal half step major 6th, which is a long distance as opposed to a short distance for the 5th modal half step 6th scale degree. So if I saw it this way, then I could say, okay, this is going to be out to here. You can't really see it. Let's go from here out to here. So that's going to be out to here. So that means that nodal point number 7, if I was to build the stack, the full stack, then that one would be, I would skip every other note, right? So that would actually be the last one that we would add, which would be 6 modal half steps up, right? Because I would skip it the first time around. So I would go, I'd go first modal half, it would be first modal whole step, second modal whole step, third modal whole step, skipping it. And then when I go around all the way back, we would pick it up, and that would be the last one that we pick up. So that means that if I was building a normal stack, it would be the last one, which would be 6 modal whole steps up, because it takes two trips around the lap if we skip every other nodal point to pick it up. So the easiest way to name it in a stack would be it's the 6th modal whole step. But that's a compound interval that's equivalent to these, right? So I could say 6 modal whole step times 2 would be the 12th modal half step, right? Plus 1 would be the 13th scale degree. So it'd be the 12th modal half step or 13th scale degree, but that's an octave up, which it normally would be in a normal stack if we were building a chord. But it has the equivalent pitch as the local distance, which we could see if we lose modal half steps because it's distance related. If it's the 12th modal half step, 12 minus 7, because there's only 7 notes in the collection, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, is the 5th modal half step. So there it is, the 5th modal half step right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the 5th modal half step, which has a note distance of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's a 9 note away distance. The 5th modal half step only has 2 possible distances. The short distance is 8 notes away. The long distance is 9 notes away, right? So it's a long distance for the 5th modal half step, 6th scale degree. Okay, so if I did a lean forward chord, then we can see that it would be 5 notes between the strings, 10, and then 9. So that's the distinct chord from the Dorian, because that's weird to have the 9 note away long distance when I'm building off of a Dorian node, which you might call a minor node or a short start club node, right? It's got a short second modal half step, 3rd scale degree. So that's the distinct chord, and it's got this tension between anytime you see nodal point 4 and 7 together, you're going to get a tritone 6 note away distance, right? Flat 5 or augmented 4 or whatever you want to call it. So that's an interesting sound. So what would we normally name that chord? It would be like a D minor, and then it would be an add either 9, add 6 or 13 if it was an octave up, you would think, right? But that doesn't, and the thing that's really funny about that is that if you add the 6 to the Dorian, you don't end up with any, I don't think under the normal chord naming conventions, you end up with any extensions, which is like you would think you would, because you would think the minors would be based on the Aeolian node. So again, this chord name doesn't really tell me anything contextually, like right away. I have to kind of understand, like.
So stacking every other node from the Dorian root, you land on nodal point 4, nodal point 7 for the 6, and that 9-note distance from the root gives you a major 6.
Ara, you can't just pop in and then, like, what is wrong with you today? Dude. It's just like, oh, all right, anyway. I messed up my whole flow, man. Okay. So the point is that I think that it doesn't really tell you anything contextually, right? Because you would think that if you didn't have an extension, it would be a minor. So it doesn't. So, but if you name it by nodal point, it's the Dorian node, and then it's 1 modal whole step up, Dorian 1, and then the second number that you're going to add is going to be in modal half steps, which is going to be a 5 modal half step, right? Now you might say, well, that doesn't work because the 5 modal half step.
Yeah, exactly. The chord name minor 6 or minor 13.
Okay, that's it. I'm just turning you off, Ara, because something is wrong with you today. I don't mean to be mean, but you're just not. It's just something's not right with you right now. Okay. Okay. I'll look into it. I'll look into her. She'll be okay. We'll look into her later because something's not right. So it would be a D1 5. Now I'm not going to say 5 plus 7, which would be an octave up, because then I would have multiple digits. So if I want it to be an octave up, like equivalent to the 13 instead of the 6, right? I would say superscript, or if you don't have superscript, you have to use the caret. So I'll just use caret 1. So I'm going to bring it up an octave. So that allows me to stay in the single digits, but raise it all up an octave if we wanted to do that, right? So it's going to be a D1 5. It's a D1 5 chord. Okay, if you want to add the collection of notes, now you could say it's a D2. You could say it's a D1 5 to give you the note name, but you don't need the note name because I have the collection of notes. So, but if I don't know the collection of notes, it would be better to give the collection of notes than to give the letter of a D. Because if you give the collection, you give the context. If you just tell them if you just tell them D minor, you're giving them less information than if you told them the collection of notes and the node, right? So like I could do it this way: 4 o'clock, and it's going to be a 401 5 chord, right? So 4 o'clock stands for the collection of notes around the key of C. I'm sorry, it's a 402 5 chord, a 402 1 5 chord, a 402 1 5 chord. So 4 stands for the. Now I'm not going to say O, but I'm using clock term because an O just adds another character we don't really need. So it's going to be a 402 1 5 chord for 4 o'clock, and then 2 is the Dorian node. 1 is modal half steps away from the Dorian node, and then the 5 is in modal half steps. 5 modal half steps, which would be the 6th scale degree. So that gives me the root, which is Dorian. That gives me the 1 modal half step up, which is 1 modal whole step, which is 2 modal half steps, or 3rd scale degree, and the one that's going to be 5 modal half steps up, 6th scale degree. If I want to bring it an octave up, right? I really wish Ara, because I'm on complicated stuff here, and Ara's broken. I feel like there should be some kind of warranty. I'm gonna go to Elon Musk and be like, dude, you owe me. This broke down at a critical time, and I paid freaking $8 for this. Okay, I expect all the answers to be delivered to me in a deferential, beautiful deferential voice when I say it. Why? Because I paid my $8, Elon. Because I paid my $8. Okay, anyway, whatever. I'm probably gonna sue. I'm gonna sue him. My $8. Oh god. Okay. All right. All right. So now let's say that we want to make this nodal point a Ionian nodal point. I want to make this nodal point an Ionian nodal point. Okay. So one way I might do it is I might say, well, I know my Ionian shape up top because I named it by the nodal point. So I know how to make that chord by just looking at my lean forward shape up top. It's right here. That's what I call the nodal point 7-1 shape, which is the Locrian Ionian shape, which you might call rock and roll shape number 4, but that doesn't really help you out with the chord names, or you might call it an Ionian E shape. But if I call it nodal point 7-1 shape, then I get these two scales under my fingers if I practice it that way, 7 to 7. I'm not going to renumber it, 7 to 7. I get to talk normal speech because human resources no longer has control over what I say. I will say what I think is the right thing to say because that's the truth. And I will 7 to 7. Don't give me your this PR gibber. I will. You can't say 7 to 7. No, you can't. I will. It's 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1 to 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. So that means I can play this one as though it's the top string of nodal point 7-1 shape. So I could say this is going to be like it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Okay, so I could play that there, but that's a lean forward shape. So if I'm on this shape and I'm leaning forward, that means by definition, if I'm leaning forward into nodal point 7-1 shape, I'm leaning back into nodal point 6 shape, or the Aeolian shape. You might call it rock and roll shape number 1 or the Ionian G shape, but those don't really help you as much because anyways, I can see if I'm leaning back that this would be the chord shape I'm building. So I can say, okay, it would be lean back chord, right there's the third, and so on, building back this way. So I can kind of visualize the lean back. So that would be great. If I did that, what would I call that chord? If I built a chord, I didn't change the key signature, but I built a chord off of the Dorian node that was an Ionian chord, which is going to have a major third, and it's going to have a major 6, a major or long second modal half step third scale degree, and also a long fifth modal half step 6th scale degree. Okay. So that, what would we call that? I'd have to call that like a D major add 6 or add 13. So I would rather call it then, I'd rather call it a Dorian / Ionian 1/5, or a Dorian / Ionian 1/5 up an octave, meaning 1/5 raised. The 5 is raised an octave to get equivalent to the 13, right? If I wanted to raise it up an octave. But you don't need that if you're just going to keep it as, that'd probably be the shorthand. Or you can say it's now at 4 o'clock, it's a 4 o'clock 2/1/1/5. The 2/1 tells me it's Dorian node with an Ionian shape, and then 1 would be the distance as though it was the Ionian, 5 would be the 5th modal half step 6th scale degree away. All right. So why does that work? Well, if I do change the key signature, I can imagine it as this wouldn't be the most efficient place to go. It would be to shift it up 2 ticks, but I can imagine it going down 1 tick and then 1, 2, 3 ticks. The planet under my finger is shifting down 1 tick under my string star of D, and then shifting back 3 ticks to the right. Right? So if I go down 1 tick because it's in the circle of force and fist, it's equivalent to 5 ticks to the right, and then back 1, 2, 3 ticks. 5 minus 3 is 2 ticks net to the right. If I'm at 4 o'clock, 4 plus 2 gets me to 6 o'clock. 4 stands for the Ionian being on the 4th note C. 4 plus 2 would be the 6th note D. So we're going to say it's going to be the collection of notes at 6 o'clock, meaning the collection of notes around D major. So there it is. Now, if I look at this from this point down, once again, obviously, I can imagine as though I'm leaning forward into the top string of nodal point 7-1 shape, Locrian Ionian shape, which is now over here, Locrian Ionian shape. Of course I can, because I named the shape by the nodal points, by the scales nodes that they start on with the scale. So that's great. But that limits me. If I only see it that way, it limits me to see what's above it, because I don't know what full shape I'm in. I'm building my scale by the fact that it's the same as the top string of the 7-1 shape. But I can figure out the shape above it, right? I can memorize that if the second string down from the ceiling is the Ionian, then I'm leaning forward into the nodal point 5 shape, which you might call rock and roll shape number 5, or the Ionian A shape. But I'd rather just call it the Mixolydian shape. And it's easy to do the math to figure that out, because if the second string down from the ceiling, whatever the second string down from the ceiling is, the one above it has a distance of 5 notes away counterclockwise down in pitch, which means it has 12 minus 5 or 7 notes equivalent if it was clockwise, if we're just thinking about going around in a circle, which is a 4th modal half step, 5th scale degree away. So if it's 1 string above it, it's always the 4th modal half step, 5th scale degree away. So if I'm on the Ionian, plus 4 modal half steps gets me to the Mixolydian. And if I name the shape by the nodal point, Mixolydian node, then I know that if the second string down from the ceiling is a 1, whatever the second string down from the ceiling is, I can add 4 to it, right? Because it's the 4th modal half step, 5th scale degree away. That gets me to whatever shape I'm in, which in this case is nodal point 5 shape. Now, it could land you in the ocean sometimes, because if I was measuring from here and I went up, it might land you in the ocean. But almost never lands you in the ocean, because the only one that it would land you in the ocean on is the Locrian, because the Locrian has a weird 4th modal half step, 5th scale degree, because it's a flat 5 or a short 4th modal half step, right? 5th scale degree. Okay. So that's good to know, I feel like. I feel like that's a breakthrough. I really wish, anyway, so, okay, so that's fine, but if I went back to here, then, so here's the Ionian over here. Now, it would be easier to find it on the same string, because then I wouldn't really have to figure out what's above it, right? Because if it was on the same string, I could just think about the planet shifting from left to right, instead of up and down, right? Which is a little bit more hard to visualize. And if it's on the same string, and if I don't rename the system, I'm like, that's the Dorian. It's not the one of the Dorian. It's the tonic of the nodal point 2 Dorian node. Because if I call that the one, if I say this is the one of the Dorian, then what is this one behind it? That's going to have to be the 7 of the Dorian. Well, why do I do that? Now now I won't know what nodal point that. So now I have to memorize that the 7 of the Dorian is the Ionian node, but just keep this as a 2, and then the one behind it, the Ionian, is right behind it, right? So if I want to look, where is the Ionian at 4 o'clock? Well, if I'm on the Dorian, which is nodal point 2, the Ionian is 1 step back, 1 modal half step counterclockwise, which means that it's 7 minus 1 or 6 modal half steps clockwise, right? Right? Wouldn't that be, it's all symmetrical. If you fix the off by 1 error, it's all symmetrical, and it would be a lot easier to kind of visualize, right? And then I go back here, and it's always a distance of a whole step, because the formula is whole, half, whole, half. So if I go 2 back to 1, it's a whole step counterclockwise. It's counterclock whole step. Okay. So if the Ionian is back here, then what shape? I'm leaning forward by definition into the nodal point 5 shape. Now, if I don't just memorize that, I could figure out that what it is if I name my shapes by nodal point. Because if this is the Ionian node, the one above it is 5 notes counterclockwise away. 12 minus 5 would be 7 clockwise if we just think about going around in a circle, which is the 4th modal half step 5th scale degree. It's always a 4th modal half step 5th scale degree. Or you might have memorized that it's always like a 5th above it. And the 5th is off by 1 because all the scale degrees are off by 1. Therefore, you just count up by 4 modal half steps. 5 minus 1, 4 modal half steps. 1 plus 4 modal half steps gets you to nodal point 5. So that means that this is the Mixolydian shape, nodal point 5 shape. You might call it rock and roll shape number 5, but that's not doing anything for you. That number doesn't really help you much. You might call it an Ionian A shape, but that only helps you if you're playing in the Ionian. You're thinking like you're in the 1800s, man. We don't just play from the Ionian no more. We do bluesy stuff, all right? We need like, you can't just name it from the Ionian's perspective no more, man. And like the blues notes with the 7s, that worked, but it's a patch. It's a patch, and it's time to recognize. Anyway, if I was to play from 1 to 1 here, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. If I was to imagine this as though it was the 2nd string down from the ceiling, then I don't have to worry about the kink in the tuning, and I can see what's above it, and I can play with that same scale, right? It'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Okay, and then I could see what's above it and whatnot. So I would call that a 4 o'clock Dorian / Ionian, unless I want to change the key signature. I could see that if I'm leaning forward into the nodal point 5 shape, then I'm leaning backwards into nodal point 4 shape. Nodal point 4 shares the shape with nodal point 3 because that's where the half step is between whole, half, right? Whole, half. So 3 and 4, nodal point Phrygian and Lydian share the shape. You might call that rock and roll shape number 4, or you might call it the Ionian C shape. And you can see from the Ionian C shape, because that's what we're on, that's going to be the shape that we would build back this way, which I can then visualize would be on this node if I want to make that the Ionian. Okay, but what if I want to change the key signature? Well, it would be a lot easier if I see the Ionian right there, because then I have my finger on the string star of D, and I want to make it Ionian. So we're just going to shift under my finger. This number 1 needs to shift up 2 ticks to the right. So if I'm at 4 o'clock, that's where the Ionian is. I need to go up 2 ticks, which is going to be 6 o'clock. Boom. And then now the Ionian is on D. So that would be a D major, but I'd rather call it a 6 o'clock Ionian, right? Because if you could D major, everybody knows where you're at because everybody knows. Anyway. Okay. So then if I was to build my chord, I could see that needs to shift up there. And I can compare that to the Dorian, which was here. I know this is going to be all tight and squishy, but it was here, here, and here, right? So let's go down here and look at this. So now I would call this a 6 o'clock Ionian, as opposed to a 4 o'clock Dorian / Ionian chord, right? And then down here, I'm going to say this is, so I'm going to change this to 6 o'clock. And then I'm going to look at the measurement from the perspective not of the Dorian node, but the Ionian node. Okay. So now we have this node right here is still note D, note number 6, but it's the Ionian node, which is nodal point number 1. So now how do I build a chord? I take every other note in the collection, So when I build my normal stack, I'm just going to take every other node. There's 1 node away, 2 nodes away, and so there it is. And so now that this point is going to be nodal point 3, which is a Phrygian, and it's going to be note number 10. Note number 10, if A is 1, 10 is F sharp or G flat. That's what the small FG stands for. It has a distance of 4 notes away, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is an Ionian second modal half step, meaning 2 modal half steps up from the Ionian, which would be a major third, meaning a long third as opposed to a short third, major versus minor. So the full name, you might call it a 4 note away Ionian second modal half step. It would be a 4 note away Ionian second modal half step major third. Okay, so that's fine. So if I did that up here, then I'd say, well, that would be this node out here. So that means that nodal point number 3, the Phrygian is always Dorian's first modal whole step times 2 second modal half step plus 1 third scale degree, which has a distance of 4 notes away, which is a long distance as opposed to a short distance, which you might call major versus minor. So now I'm going to say I want to add the 13th, which is equivalent to, or in pitch at least, equivalent to the 6th. The scale degrees are off by 1, so it would be the 12th modal half step or the 5th modal half step. So let's look at the local distance down here, 5th modal half step. So if I count it out this way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's actually the same distance as the Dorian, because the Dorian has a long, which is like a major 5th modal half step, 6th scale degree. So that gets us to the nodal point 6, which is the Aeolian node, and that's going to be note 3, which is a B. If A is 1, B is 3, because A and then A sharp and then B, which has a distance of 9 notes away, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which is an Ionian 5th, meaning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the collection, which is a major 6th, meaning if I count the one that I'm on, then this would be 6 away. So it's a 9 note away Ionian 5th, major 6th, which has a long distance versus a short distance, major versus minor in this case. So if I did that up here, then it would be Ionian here is going to go out to what happened here? Something is wrong. The 6 right here. So now we're going to say, okay, that means that nodal point 6 is always Ionians 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is always Ionians in modal whole steps. If I was to stack it and go around the circle twice, it would always be the 6th modal whole step times 2 would be 12 modal half steps, right? 12 modal half steps away, but that's over an octave. That would be an octave up in the normal stack, which means it has a local distance of 12 minus 7, which would be 12 minus 7, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 is 5, which would be 5 modal half steps up, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And so it's 5 modal half steps up, which has a distance of 1, 2, 3, 9, a long distance of 9. Okay. All right. So if I look at that, then if I count that out this way, it's the same relative position, 5, 10, and then 9. So when I look at this shape, the third is different. This one's actually a short third because there's 5 notes between the string, 4, 3, even though it looks longer stretching wise if I measure in inches, right? And this is actually the long third, 5 notes between the strings, and then 4. And then this relative distance is the same because the Dorian node has something that's strange compared to what we might call the short start or minor distances. It has a long 6 modal half step, or 5th modal half step, 6th scale degree, which would be the 12th modal half step, 13th scale degree if we went an octave up. Okay. So it would be more like this. Well, that's not right. That was ugly. Versus if I finger it like this, I can play between them. Maybe if I... So I think like jazz stuff, like when we play blues, we play with that third a lot, and then the 7. And if you get into more fancy jazz, you would think that would be another one that you would play with to mix between modes, right? Well, actually, it has the same, but I'm changing the third now. But I'm keeping that funny 6, which is the same between. Anyway, okay, my head is going here. Let's look at it this way. All right. Okay, so now we're gonna say. We mapped the whole thing out, so let's just think about this again. So I've got the whole thing mapped out in the formula, whole, half, whole, half, and then up and down mapped out in fifths and fourths. So x-axis, half steps, y-axis, circle of fourths, fifths, string closest to the ceiling, open E, which is note number 8, is hovering over continent number 3, Phrygian continent, open string star of A, which is note number 1, hovering over continent number 6, which is the Aeolian continent, open string star of D, which is note number, which is note number 6, is hovering over the continent Dorian, which is nodal point 2 continent, open string star of G, which is note 11, is hovering over continent 5, Mixolydian continent, open string star of B, which is note number 2. Note number 3 is hovering over continent number 7, Locrian continent, and once again, string closest to the floor, open string star of E, note 8, hovering over continent 3, Phrygian. Fret 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5th fret up, second string down from the ceiling, which is string star of D, note number 6, hovering over continent number 2, Dorian continent. Anytime I'm hovering over continent number 2, I know that I'm leaning forward into what I would call rock and roll shape number 6, because the note above it is always the 4th modal half step, 5th scale degree, which I can easily say, well, if I'm on the Dorian, is a 2 plus 4 is 6. So if I name this shape by nodal point 6, the Aeolian shape, then I can figure that out cleanly. And you might call it, however, rock and roll shape number 1, which doesn't help you much, or the Ionian G shape, which only helps you from one perspective, which isn't good enough. That's not good enough. Okay. So that means, of course, that I'm leaning back then. If this is nodal point 6 shape, I'm leaning back into the nodal point 5 shape, which would be the Mixolydian shape, which you might call rock and roll shape number 5 or the Ionian A shape. Okay, if I build a lean back chord then, I would call it a 4 o'clock, collection of notes around the key of C, Dorian chord, and I would call it a lean back chord because the second modal half step, 3rd scale degree is in the lower left quadrant from a guitar's perspective. Okay, so what if I want to change this from D Dorian to a D Ionian for whatever reason? Well, if I could change the key signature or not change the key signature. So I can name it 3 different ways. I can name it from the perspective of the Dorian, even though I might be grabbing an ocean note, for example, the 3rd over here being a major 3rd. So in which case I would like to call it a 4 o'clock Dorian 2 or something if it was a 3-note Dorian. But then I'm going to say that there's a sharp, there's going to be a 2 sharp, meaning the one that's in the stack, which is the third, is now going to be pushed up, right? So I could name it that way, but I think a lot of people wouldn't do it that way. They would be seeing, well, look, I'm playing an Ionian on top of the Dorian node. That's really what we're thinking in our mind, I think, a lot of time. So I would say it's a 4 o'clock Dorian / Ionian shape, because I'm building an Ionian shape on the Dorian node, but I'm not changing the key signature. Okay, but I might not know. I might know the scale only from the top shape because I named the top shape. So if I want to make that Dorian a Ionian scale, I could just say, well, I'll just play my Ionian shape as though it's the top string because I named my shapes that way. Meaning this is nodal point 7 1 shape, sharing the name between nodal point 7 Locrian and nodal point 1 Ionian, because that's where the half step is. So I can play from 1 to 1 here, and I can just pretend like this is the 1, and I would play from 1 to 1 on this shape. And I could just easily play the scale, and I would call that then a, not changing the key signature, a 402/1 chord of some kind. Okay. Why does that work? Well, I can imagine that if my finger's on the string star of D, this planet, the continent, moves underneath it 1 tick down and then 1, 2, 3 ticks to the right. So 1 tick down is equivalent to 5 ticks to the right, 3 ticks to the left, it's 5 minus 3, or a net of 2 ticks to the right. If I'm on Ionian is on note 4, which is a C, 4 o'clock, and I go 2 ticks to the right equivalent, then that's going to be 4, 5, 6 o'clock, which means that that's the collection of notes around the key of D, because D is note number 6. Boom, boom. So here's from the perspective of the yellow, 5th fret up, 2nd string down from the ceiling is now still the string star of D, but my finger is now on the Ionian node. The red is showing me that, of course, I can play the scale leaning forward as though it's the top string of nodal point 7 1 shape, because I named my shape by the start of the scales, which I don't need to renumber, because if I did, it would cause all kind of problems, right? And I know that and I can lean back into the nodal point 6 shape as though it was the top string, building my chord thusly. But I can see that I'm actually leaning forward from the top string's perspective. What shape am I in from the top string's perspective? Well, one way, if I don't know, I can say, well, that's the Ionian node, and the string above it is going to be 5 notes away counterclockwise, which is 7 clockwise, if I just think about a circle, which is a 4th modal half step or 5th away. So the one above it is always a 4th modal half step or 5th away, and the 5th is always off by 1, so it's 4 modal half steps. So 1 plus 4 is nodal point 5. So if I name this by nodal point, that would be the nodal point 5 shape, or the Mixolydian shape. Okay. But it might still be easier to just think of it shifting from left to right instead of up and down. So the other way I can visualize it and say, well, if I want to make this not D, I don't want to make it D Dorian, I want to make it D Ionian. I want to make it not a 4 o'clock Dorian, but some o'clock Ionian, whatever, right? Or a 4 o'clock Dorian / Ionian shape that I'm going to build on that Dorian node. Well, I could look at it on the same string. If I don't renumber that to the 1, I keep it as nodal point number 2, the Ionian is right behind it, because it goes Ionians 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Don't rename it, number it, and then the Ionians, all the nodal points are clear. So I just say, well, that's right behind it, 1 whole step counterclockwise, or 7 minus 1, 6 whole steps six clockwise. Not whole steps, but 6 nodal points clockwise. 1 nodal point counterclockwise. Okay. So then if I look at that Ionian, again, I can say, okay, well, that means what shape is that shape in? Well, I'm leaning forward into nodal point 5 shape. If I didn't know what shape it was, I can figure it out, because once again, the one above it is the 5th scale degree, which means it's 5 minus 1, or 4th modal half step. 1 plus 4 is nodal point 5 shape, which is you might call rock and roll shape number 5, or the Ionian A shape. So then I can play this node as though it's that shape, right? And then I don't have to worry about the kink in the tuning, because I know exactly where I am. But I'd still call it a 4 o'clock Dorian / Ionian chord shape, or whatever. But if I want to change the key signature, this one would be easier because I can keep my finger on the string star of D and just change the Ionian. The Ionian's moving from here up to here, 2 ticks to the right. So if I'm at 4 o'clock, meaning the Ionian's on note number 4, if A is 1, C is 4, I'm just going 2 ticks to the right, so the Ionian is now on the D. So my finger didn't change. I'm still 5th fret up, 2nd string down, fingers on the string star of D, but now it's hovering over the Ionian continent, which means by definition I'm leaning forward into the nodal point 5 shape, which I can figure out because if the Ionian is the 4th, then the note above it that I named the shape by has to be the 4th modal half step 5th scale degree away. 4 plus 1 is 5. So it's the nodal point 5 shape, and we have then, you might call that rock and roll shape number 5 or the Ionian A shape. Okay, let's look at it over here where I mapped out all of the nodal points, which I'm calling 7 continents, 5 oceans, and then the stars are above it. Each continent and ocean has a star above it. Here's going to be the shape of the fretboard. So once again, at C o'clock, the string closest to the ceiling is an open, the string star of E. Note number 8 is hovering over continent number 3, the Phrygian continent. The open string star of A, note number 1, hovering over continent 6, the Aeolian continent. Open string star of D, note number 6, hovering over continent 2, the Dorian continent. Open string star of G, note 11, hovering over continent number 5, Mixolydian continent. Kink in the tuning, represented by the shift in the shape. Open string star of B, note number 3, hovering over continent number 7, the Locrian continent. String closest to the floor, once again having an open string star of E, hovering over continent 3, the Phrygian. We have 0 fret, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5th fret up, 2nd string down from the ceiling. My fingers on the string star of D, note number 6, which is hovering over continent number 6, the Dorian continent, which means by definition we are leaning forward into the nodal point 6 shape, the Aeolian shape, which I can derive because the note right above the node that we're on is always going to be a perfect 5th, which means it's a 4th modal half step away, and we know that nodal point 6 is always Dorian's 4th modal half step 5th scale degree because 2 plus 4 is 6. So that means that we're in the Aeolian shape if I name it by the start of the shape, which is nice and easy and convenient to figure out, but you might just call it rock and roll shape number 1. Generically, doesn't help you much to do it that way though. And you might call it from a cage system the G shape, Ionian G shape, which again doesn't help you anywhere near as much as if you named it by the nodal point on the shape. I'm just saying, no one does it. No one listens to me. I know. Just keep talking, you idiot. I will. That's what I do. I will keep talking. I will keep. Okay. So then, so then we could see. So then we could see that if I want to make this the Ionian, I might see it from the top shape that I named the top shape by, right? So if I lean forward, this is nodal point 7-1 shape, meaning it's the Locrian Ionian shape. So I could imagine that I played this scale as though it's the top string of the Locrian Ionian shape because obviously it's named after the scale. So if I did that, I would say I'm at a 4 o'clock Dorian / Ionian scale shape or chord. If I'm doing a lean back chord, I know that this shape, if it's a 7-1 shape, I'm leaning back into nodal point 6 shape, the Aeolian shape. So I can imagine that this is the leaning back, the nodal point leaning back into the top string, leaning back into nodal point 6 shape to build my chord if I wanted to. Why does that work? Because that would be like if I had my finger on the string star of D and the whole planet underneath shifted down 1 tick, which is equivalent to 5 ticks to the right, and then back 1, 2, 3 ticks, then it would be in a net of 5 minus 3 or 2 ticks to the right. So if I'm at Ionian C is 4 plus 2 would be 7, meaning collection of notes around D major. Ba-boom, ba-boom. So there we have it. So now from the perspective of the yellow, 5th fret up, 2nd string down from the ceiling, my finger's still hovering over string star of D, which is note number 6, but now that string star is hovering over the continent of the Ionian continent, nodal point number 1, The red is showing me that, of course, I can visualize that as though it's the top string of nodal point 7-1 shape, because I named the shape by the scale, the nodal point at the start of the scale, which is useful. It only causes a problem when you cross the kink in the tuning here, which you have to shift up on the guitar to compensate for. But it would be nice to know the exact shape I am in from the top node, naming the whole shape, to see what's above it. Easy to do that because I can say whatever is above it is always a 4th modal half step, 5th scale degree above it. So if I'm on nodal point 1, the note above it is going to be 1 plus 4 or 5, because nodal point 5, Mixolydian, is always the 4th modal half step, 5th scale degree of nodal point 4. That means I'm actually leaning forward into the nodal point 5 shape, which you might call rock and roll shape number 5, or you might call the Ionian A shape. All right, so let's bring it back here. Now, I might know the shape. I might want to shift just from side to side, not up and down, thereby not having to deal with the circle of 4 circles of 5th distance and the kink in the tuning being easier to deal with. So if I'm at 4 o'clock Dorian, then if I don't renumber the Dorian to be the 1, it's easy to figure any other nodal point, because there's only 7 nodal points and the distance between all the nodes are fixed. So we're going to say if that's nodal point 1 and I want to get to the Ionian, well, that's going to be, if that's nodal point 2 and I want to get to the Ionian, it's the one that's 1 back. Nodal point 1 is right behind it, which has a distance of a whole step counterclockwise, or it's going to be 7 minus 1, 6 clockwise, 6 modal half steps clockwise, right? So that means, so there it is right there. So anytime the first string down from the ceiling is an Ionian, I know that I'm leaning forward into the nodal point 5 shape, which I can figure out as well, because I know that the string above it is the perfect 5th, which is off by 1, 4th modal half step. If I'm looking at this one and I want it to be the Ionian, the one above it plus 4 would be 5. So that means above it we have the nodal point 5 shape, which you might call rock and roll shape number 5, or from the Ionian's perspective, caged system Ionian A shape. So then I can kind of visualize this Dorian as though it's the second string down from the ceiling of the nodal point 5 shape, building the same scale, but also being able to play a chord across the fault line and see what's above it without as much problem. I know that if this is nodal point 5 shape, then I'm leaning back into nodal point 3-4 shape, right? And so then I can build my chord leaning back and visualize this leaning back as well. Okay, why does that, so if I did that, I would call that a 4 o'clock Dorian / Ionian chord shaped scale. But if I want to change the key signature, then my finger's on the string star of D, and I just need to go from the collection of notes at 4 o'clock around the key of C, this Ionian on the 4th note, that being C, and just shift it 2 ticks to the right so that the Ionian continent lines up under the string star of D, right? So I'm just going 2 ticks to the right, 4, 5, 6, boom. So now, from the perspective of the yellow, I'm still the 5th fret up, 2nd string down from the ceiling. My finger is on the string star of D, note number 6 still, but now, of course, that's hovering over continent number 1, the Ionian continent, and I'm leaning forward into the nodal point 5 shape, which I know it has to, because if this is nodal point 1, then the string right above it is the 4th modal half step away, 5th scale degree. 1 plus 4 is 5. I named the shape by the starting point. Therefore, that's nodal point 5 shape, the Mixolydian shape, because nodal point 5 is always Ionian's 4th modal half step, 5th scale degree. You might call that shape, once again, just generic rock and roll shape number 5, or from the cage system, an Ionian A shape. But I think I'm showing pretty clearly here that it's more efficient to name it by nodal point. I don't see how anyone could possibly argue otherwise, in my opinion. But maybe I might be wrong. You conceited son of a. Okay, maybe someone could. Okay, I'm just saying.